Well, good evening, everybody, or good morning, as the case should be, here in Scotland. It is 1:34 in the morning, but we are live, and I apologize for being delayed getting started. I was waiting for my good buddy Johnny Guy to finish his stream because I didn't want to steal away any folk from his stream to come to mine. So I thought it best to wait. So if you are coming over from his stream, then please pop in to the chat and come and say hello. I'm just going to resize my my GUI just a minute. I'm having to, I think I've said this before, I'm having to use Google Hangouts to do all of this because I don't, well, I can use OBS, but it doesn't work. Basically, it would just be me freeze framed for 2 minutes and you'd hear me, but you wouldn't see the images just don't work very well. So I just don't have very fast internet, I'm afraid. I have less than a meg a second upload. So that's not going to work. So good morning, everybody. Good morning, Peter and Lost Lure. I love that name, by the way. And Skip is here. Fantastic. Thank you, Skip. And Miles McGonigal, you are a legend. You're all legends. Thank you. It is very late here, so I am not going to be on for very long. We'll keep this kind of short, but I will go back to doing my once a week stream at 10 p.m. BST, which is, I think, 5 p.m. Central Daylight. If you're able to make that, I know some of you with work commitments, you're not going to be able to get there for those. So go ahead and watch the replay. And what I suggest, if you're not able to make a live stream, then watch the replay, and if it kind of generates any questions or follow-up questions that you have, then just stick them in the comments below, and I will either answer them in directly in a comment reply, or I will take those questions forward into the next stream, and I'll get those questions done first. So let's get started, folks. We have 12 people watching, which is awesome. Minus me would be 11 because I have to watch as well. So who do we have? We have Peter, Lostler, Skip, Miles, and Loenz. And who else do we have here? If you pop into the chat and let me know who you are, that'd be awesome. And then we can get some questions going. Dooley still is here. Good morning to you, my good friend. It's Peter that I do at least some Sean Connery. We will get to that as we go. Tim E is here. Thank you for coming. So as I say, it is stupid o'clock here, but I'm happy to be here, and I'm happy to be here talking to you lovely folks over across the pond. Good early morning to me, says Just Bob. Yes, it is 20 to 2 in the morning. MJN Studios is here. Yep, it's actually closer to 2 a.m. than it is 1 a.m. It's like 1:38 here at the moment. But hey, I'm awake and I'm alive and I'm ready to answer your questions. So if you start tapping away in the chat, we'll get your questions in quick and we'll get them answered, because I'm aware that there is a bit of a delay between me and the chat. So if you could let me know what the picture quality and audio quality is like, I'd appreciate that too. And I will see if I can do anything to adjust those. I might not be able to, but I'll try. So hope we're doing all well. Thanks for the dedication. Well, yeah, you know what? I love it. I love serving the audio community. I love teaching you guys. I love learning from you guys. And I just think it's great that we can all hang out together in various live streams. Johnny's, mine, Dave, Vignola's, and we can all learn from each other. I learn as much as the rest of anybody else, and to me, that's the way it should be. You know, I'm not here to kind of like sit on a high stool and look down at you and say, "Hey, I know everything that you need to do, and you don't. I'm going to educate you." No, I don't come from that. I don't come from that perspective. I come to you as someone that's maybe a little bit further down the road and is saying, "Hey, here's the roadmap. Here's how you get from point A to where I am at the moment." So Skip says Vox is good and video at 720. That's good because that's where I want it. 720 is the best you're going to get out of Google Hangouts. I have sent an email to Google to see if they will allow Google Hangouts to go up to 1080 for those of us that don't have fast upload speed and can't use an encoder. They've not got back to me as yet. For some strange reason, going to full screen retains the 720 setting. Well, I would hope that it would. Yeah, I would hope that it would retain the 720 when you go to full screen. Oh, you mean when I share Studio One? Is that what you mean? Video choppy? Yeah, not a lot I can do about that. I think that's to do with my upload speed. So I hope you don't mind it being a little less than as flashy or as clean as Dave's or Johnny's streams. Basically, with me, is what you see is what you get. This is what I have. This is what I have available. And actually, if there's any of you other guys out there that would love to do a live stream, but you're just thinking, you know what, I don't have particularly fast upload speed. Hopefully, what I'm doing here should encourage you. Just do it. Just go ahead and do it. And don't worry about, picture quality, audio quality. So long as it's not so bad that it's not watchable or not listenable, and is actually going to do a disservice to what you're doing, then, it's the content that's the issue for me. Just Bob's Lost Lure says, no egos, just sharing info. That's what it's about. Yes, exactly. I work very hard at not having an ego. I work at trying to cultivate humility. And humility is one of those elusive things. It's like chasing the wind. As soon as you think you have it, and the moment you say, yes, I am humble, in that instant, you just lost it. You just lost humility right there. So, yeah, that's what I'm about. Just Bob says, how do you effectively use space to create more sound and pull listeners in, much like Pink Floyd does, but not make the music sound empty? I would say, I think what you're talking about there is to do with creating width and breadth in your mix. And I would say some careful and strategic use of reverb would help with that. Basically creating an ambience in which your music lives. So in some cases, it depends upon the song, really. In some cases, what that might mean is that you grab all of your tracks and you route them to an effects bus, and you put something like a concert hall reverb on there, and then you adjust the send levels of all of your tracks so that basically the reverb is something that is felt, i.e. perceived rather than heard. So basically you dial it up in your send until you can hear it, and then you back it off. Would be my suggestion. Peter says, I've just started to learn about modes, Mixolydian, etc. Is it something you think about when composing? Not really, except I'll give you an example where I did deliberately use modes. On my EP, Belonging to Tomorrow from last year, the title track essentially is in three key centers. And they're based around the dominant 7 jazz scale. So we start trying to remember what we start in. I think we start in around about G, and then we go up to A flat, and then, oh, I'm getting some distortion. So we start around here in G, and then the next verse goes up to A flat. Then the final verse is in B flat. And basically that was an occasion where I did use a mode, and then I transposed the last 4 bars of each verse to their respective key centers, so I had the same turnaround every time. So I think more about modes when I'm actually backing a soloist. Like, I tend to think about the chord changes from a modal perspective, if you understand what I mean. You know, let's say, for example, the chord changes are C, A minor, D minor 7, G7. You know, it's kind of around those kind of chord changes. Well, you could just basically play each particular chord voicing. So you could literally play the C, the A minor, the D minor, and the G. Or you could think of those in terms of the mode that they are derived from. So in this case, the Ionian mode, which is the same as the major scale. So I would, if I was backing a soloist, I'd let the bass player state the chords with the walking line, and then I would back, just basically selecting some notes from that scale and voice them together without making it sound obvious. So I would maybe stack fourths, like something like this. Something like that. So I'm not really thinking about the chord changes. I'm thinking about just using the notes of the scale. Okay, let's have a look and see what else we've got here. Okay, I've answered that about space, the final frontier. Miles McGonigal says, opinion on making lead vocals more or less wet when compared to background vocals. Wet meaning delay reverb. Good question. I tend, personally, this is my personal take to that, I tend to prefer dry sounds just by nature, just naturally. So I don't tend to use a lot of reverb in my songs. But what I would do is I would maybe use just the subtlest little hint of a reverb on my backing vocals. And I would use delay on my lead vocal. And the double for the lead vocal, because I tend to use doubling quite a lot as part of my signature sound for vocal recording. I would keep the double absolutely dry in terms of reverb and delay. I'd have none on it at all whatsoever. And so the contrast is created because a reverb, one of the things a reverb tends to do is not only does it tend to give a sense of space and a sense of width, but it also tends to give a sense of putting something further back in the mix, which is fine for me because I don't want my backing vocals to be, you know, crowding the lead vocal. I still want them to surround and envelop, but I don't want them to crowd the lead vocal. So I would use a little bit of a reverb, and then I'd use a delay on the lead vocal. So they sound different, but they fit. So, but in order to kind of like, because I don't want the lead vocal to be completely detached from the other vocal sounds, I would maybe, you know, have more delay and then add just a smidge of reverb, the same settings as the backing vocals, but just like a tiny smidge of it, just a little bit, just to give that same sense of space. So they sound like they're in the same room, but they have a different kind of tonality, a different tone, if you like. Dooley Still said, what would you call that keyboard sound? Not Fender Rhodes. It is a Fender Rhodes. That's the Fender Rhodes Mark V. Yep, that's the Fender Rhodes Mark V as modeled by Clavier, the company that make the Nord Stage 88, which is what this is. In my lounge, I have a real actual Fender Rhodes Mark V. But it doesn't live in the studio here. For very good reasons to do with the ambience in this room. It's to do with the I mean, I say ambience, I mean more kind of the atmosphere in this room. It's totally wrong for looking after and maintaining the roads in here. It gets just a tad too dry in here, which is not great for the roads. So it lives in the lounge. And I can look after it a lot better there. And if I need to record it, then I just run extremely long cables. So there you go. Lead vocals, Miles says, we're getting lost when I added any effect. Yeah, that's possibly because you're maybe sending too much. So basically get the send to where you can hear it and then back it off a little bit until it becomes something felt rather than heard. And of course, some compression will help you out there as well. Peter says, when I start to think too much of theory, I stop writing my ears and I write with my brain, ending up with the tones being boring and the rhythm hard to pull off. Yeah, that can happen. That can happen. Got to learn to combine ears and brain. Yeah, the thing is to kind of not allow your understanding of music theory and harmony and everything else to, you know, kind of to take over, to dominate, you know, play what feels good from your heart. And if that means you're playing something that's complex, then great. But don't play something or write something complex for the sake of it, just because you can. I mean, there are a lot of very, 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 very talented musicians out there who can play the most incredibly complex stuff. And when you have all of that and you have that massive, massive vocabulary at your disposal, the temptation to just, I call it whittling, where, you know, it's more kind of abstract and not really musical. So be your own best critic. Be my advice to you there. Dooley says, it sounds great. The Black Cow intro the other night sounded perfect. Yes. That's a great song. There's another song actually off of Donald Fagen's The Night Fly, I think it is, which starts off basically like this. And it just sounds, it's just, you can do this on a very, very well modeled Fender Rhodes model, like I can on here. I mean, it sounds fantastic on here, but it sounds even better on the real thing. It goes kind of like this. And then it goes into the main vamp after that. But it just sounds, you know, it's just like all the variations of attack you can get out of Fender Rhodes. I just love that. And it's just so typical of the Fender Rhodes. Another thing that that they use, and I think Stevie Wonder uses quite a lot of, let's see if I can replicate this. Let's get that down there. I'll see if I can replicate this kind of sound. If you know that song, then you're great. Yeah, Liu Chang's brother burning with rage. Yes. What is the darn title of that song? It's nearly 2 a.m. in the morning, so my brain is beginning to leak information. Simplicity is key, says MJN Studios. Yeah, absolutely. Even if you're playing complex music, simplicity is still key. I mean, that's the great thing about really, really, really great songs. Like, you know, a lot of Stevie Wonder's music is very, very complex, but what he does extremely well is kind of making it sound simple. And then, you know, yeah, you get to I'm playing in a covers band at the moment, playing bass, and we play quite a lot of his songs, and it's just like they're actually really, really complicated to get your fingers around, and there's lots of work to do. And it's just like, oh, hang on a minute, I thought that song was simple, but it isn't. It's deceptive. And all of the best songs have that in common. You know, they sound ridiculously simple, but they're really, really complicated. Like a good number of Beatles songs. Like pick any song from the Revolver record or the White Album or Sgt. Pepper's. And you think, yeah, that sounds really simple, but no, it isn't. It's really complicated, really, really intricate, and the arrangements are really intricate. So get those things right, get those things sounding really, really good. So start off with a really, really well-written, well-crafted song that is well arranged, that has interest from start to finish. And then the song will mix it. The song will practically record itself. The song will practically mix itself. And you'll be good. Dooley Still says, ever mess with Chick Corea? No, I don't. His stuff is out of my league, man. Most definitely. I love his music. I love his harmonic style. I love his percussive improvisational style. Yeah, I love his music. I think I prefer his acoustic music to his electric band stuff, but still, you know, the electric band stuff was a little bit revolutionary in the 80s. So yeah, I dig his stuff. I kind of stopped listening to the electric band when they got to that so I forget the album. Was it Beneath the Mask or Behind the Mask, where they had that whole song dedicated to the Yamaha SY99? I was just like, no, that's just check what you're doing. But then, of course, the acoustic band record, the self-titled acoustic band record came out, and they did some beautiful, beautiful songs. And John Patitucci is one of the best upright bass players in the world, in my opinion. It's a beautiful record. So, yeah, it's all out of our leagues. Yep, certainly is. And you know what? I don't like insulting professional colleagues like Chick Corea by, you know, attempting to play their stuff badly. So there you go. All right, where are we at? We are at coming up on 2 a.m. Listen to 70s Return to Forever. Yes, I have all of the Return to Forever records. Do you prefer Glyn John's method or recording my method for drum recording using 4 mics? Good question. I've actually used both, and both work really, really well. I prefer, certainly for the style of music that I work with most often, which is either jazz or some other acoustic music, I tend to go for minimal miking, and I don't worry about drum bleed. I really just don't. It's not important. I mean, if there's too much bleed, then yes, you've got problems. So you need to position your mics well so that you capture the overall sound of the whole drum set. So I mean, for my EP, I think what we did was we had 2 overheads, a snare drum mic, and a kick drum mic. And the overheads were, one was kind of One was kind of over this side of the drum set, right-handed player, kind of over the crash cymbal, the toms, the snare drum, and the hi-hat, pointing at the snare drum. And then the other one was over here on the, over sort of by the floor tom, again pointing to the same spot on the snare drum. I forget which of those. I think that's Glyn John's recording method, doing it that way. And that's my preferred setup for miking. And then it's just a case of you just do some test tracks and you move it around until you find something that sounds good, and then you go from there. So actually, sometimes I might combine the two methods. It might be a little bit Glyn Johns, it might be a little bit Recorder Man. It's Jonny Lipsham miking. Yes, that's the Glyn. Yes, yeah, I thought it was. As I say, I use both and I mix them up. But yeah, minimal miking is the way I prefer to go. I mean, if I'm doing a rock record or if I'm doing a worship album at my church, then yes, we would use multi-miking. Recorder Man is over the shoulder of the drummer. Yes. Yeah, I've used that before. Yeah. Not entirely sure that I necessarily liked the results, but yeah, it's a good method. It's a good method. I think I prefer, if I was to have a preference, it would be Glyn Johns. But, you know, I go with whatever works, to be honest. I don't come in with kind of like a predetermined idea. Hey, this is how I'm going to mic up this drum set this time. You know, I'll go with what sounds great. If it sounds great, where the mics are, then we just hit record. So, and then we're ready to do, you know, live takes at that point. We have 13 people in the room. Please go ahead and get your questions in. I'm going to go for a little bit longer, and then I'm going to call it a night because I have a doctor's appointment at 8:30, which is surprisingly not very far away. So I have a little bit of a skin infection on 2 toes on my left foot that I have been dealing with for a very long time, and it's not really going away. So I'm back to the doctor's house. The doctor's house? Not the doctor's house. I don't go to the doctor's house. I'm back to the doctor's surgery to have it reviewed. MJN says, I wish I could record live drums. Being a drummer, it would be nice, but townhouse living kills that idea. It most certainly does, I'm afraid. I live in an apartment on the first floor of a low-rise block. And yep, absolutely kills the idea. Fortunately, I have a nice local church building that I can use. I say local, our church is in the center of Edinburgh. But there's a nice Church of Scotland building right across the road from where we live. And I know the guy, I know the pastor of that church really well. And he is a former recording engineer by trade. So he and I have talked recording in there for my next EP. So I may well be bringing the Gretsch drums out of the church that I'm a part of, that I serve. I serve in that church as mostly a musician, but I do PA and I do ministry as well. So yeah, so I'm probably going to take the Gretsch drum set out of that church and bring them to the church across the road and use their building, because they've got a beautiful, beautiful sanctuary that sounds awesome. So I'd love to get the drums mic'd up in there. And yeah, it's very nicely soundproofed in there as well. So, you know, I could play for hours and you wouldn't know, standing outside. All right, we have 11 people in the room now. We appear to be losing a few, which is a little bit of a shame. I would have liked to have seen a few more people in here. Especially given that, you know, I'm doing this at a time that better suits the American audience. I would have liked to have had a few more people in. But you know what? You 11, 12, 13, 14 people that I have had since I started, you are a fantastic bunch. You're loyal, and you always come and ask questions, and that's what I'm after. But you know, the more the merrier. So you know, if you can encourage other people to come in and join the streams as well, then all the better. I'd love to have a stream where I have 30 or 40 people in. That'd be great. But Yeah. So there you go. Just Bob says, do you record all the tracks yourself, drums, bass, guitar, etc., then bring idea to a band, or is your style more jamming with a band and creating on the spot? I've actually done both. My last EP, I recorded scratch tracks, is what you're referring to. I recorded scratch tracks here, and then I sent mock-ups to my musicians. I still have a working band. We used to be a 12-piece band maybe 10, 12 years ago, and now we're a trio. Budget cuts, you know how it is, the financial crash of 2008 pretty much killed my band. So we went from a 12-piece down to a trio. So yeah, so my bass player and my drummer, we then, once we've got the mock-ups and everyone's got the mock-ups, we rehearse for 2 days, for 2 full days. So we do 16 hours of rehearsal, and then we start recording. And then I get other people to do overdubs. That's the way it works. My teacher for music theory, says MJN Studios. My teacher for music theory tells me not to write notes down when studying scores. Do you have any advice for memorizing notes? Do you mean commentary notes, or do you mean actual notation notes when studying scores? Yeah, because I'm not, how I answer will depend on that, whether you're talking about commentary notes or actual notation notes in scores. If you could clarify that point, that'd be helpful. Just Bob says, cool. Yep. Yeah, so my EP last year was done that way. My album prior to that was done very, very differently. That was much more a case of I got everybody into a big room, and then we just chucked up mics and we rehearsed for a whole week solid, because I had a horn section and I had backing vocals. I mean, I had backing vocals this time and I had a horn section this time, but they were all done overdub. Whereas my last record before Belonging to Tomorrow, we just chucked up mics and we just captured the whole thing live. So I've done it both ways. And previous records, I actually preferred kind of like live, essentially a live rhythm section with overdubs. And that's kind of my preferred method, really. But yeah, my prior record, it was kind of an experiment with, hey, can I actually cut a record in 2 days? 12 songs, doing 6 songs each day. That was my challenge to myself. I like challenging myself. MJN says, actual notation, especially ledger lines. I'm studying Beethoven sonatas. Well, good luck with the Beethoven sonatas. Let me just go back to your question. My teacher for music theory tells me not to write notes down when studying scores. Do you have any advice for memorizing the notes? I would suggest have the score out in front of you. Get the CD of the sonata. Put the CD on. Listen all the way through without referring to the score. Right? So have the score shut. Listen all the way through. And by ear, see if you can pick out 1 or 2 of the thematic material. So like, if you can pick out one theme and then see how it gets developed, see if you can pick out developments. So have a notepad, write down what you hear and when you hear it. And then the next thing to do is open this, have another listen through, open your score, follow the score as you're listening, and then see if your eyes pick up the themes that you've already noted by ear. And then just read as you're listening. And then see if you can sing those, things, those little thematic materials and stuff that you're studying. Like if you're looking at Beethoven's use of harmony, then look out for particular kind of signature harmonic devices. And those are the things to look out for. And then look out for how he voices those across the orchestra. Because Beethoven in particular shares, at least certainly in his early periods, shares some kind of harmonic ideas that he got from Mozart. Because he studied with Mozart for a little while. So yeah, so go and look at those kind of things, and then kind of see how Beethoven develops ideas melodically, harmonically, how he goes from one key to another. So you're getting basically just the overall roadmap, and you're looking at like one or two important details. You're like taking little photographs in your mind by listening, and then again in your mind reinforcing that. Oh, just the piano sonatas, right? Yeah. Well, it's even easier then, because you're only dealing with just the piano. So again, I go back to what I said at the start there. Look for thematic material. Look for, I mean, like for example, Peter just mentioned the Moonlight Sonata. Yes, take a look at the Moonlight Sonata and look at the initial theme, and then look at how he develops that. See if you can spot it cropping up, and then note where that theme crops up throughout the whole sonata. And then see how he treats it harmonically differently each time, which is something that he fairly frequently did. And the Moonlight is it's a beautiful piece of work. It's dark. It's dark in tone, but it's an absolutely gorgeous piece of music. And you have to have a fair right hand stretch if you're going to play it. Okay, so I hope that helps. Just Bob says, I learned of you from Johnny Gibe. Can we find your music in America or online? I would love to hear it. Okay, I'm going to show you where you can get it. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen. Now, if you're new to my stream, what you will need to do when I share my screen is you will need to hit the little cogwheel at the bottom of the stream screen and make sure the resolution stays at 720. If it doesn't, then change it. Okay. So let's go to share screen. And I'm going to go to application window. And we're going to go for Google. And I don't want to show my own self, so let's just change that. And we are going to type in the website. So if you have Notepad open on your computers, you can type this in as well. So we go to nimbitmusic.com. I only have to type NI because I obviously visit this frequently. So nimbitmusic.com /JONNYLIPSHAM. nimbitmusic.com/Jonny Lipsham. And then hopefully my internet is going to cope with all of this. Just about. I can hear the fan of my CPU beginning to just pick up just a little bit. So this is what you come to. Here is my Nimbit page. This is where you can get all of my music. And what you do, actually, just let me know if you can see that. That would help me. I'm going to pop over and see. Yes, you should be able to see that. Cool. So this is the main page. You can go to my store, and you'll see this is my EP from last year, Belonging to Tomorrow. There are two versions of this. You've got the deluxe version, which is the one that it defaults to. And basically, this includes a 24-minute video on the making of Belonging to Tomorrow, where I basically talk at length about how I came up with the songs and how we recorded them and all that kind of stuff. And you get photos from the sessions. There are a few there, and you get the lyrics sheet. And you also, so basically, if you were to purchase this, you pay £8 GBP. It will appear in your own currency. So if you are in the US, you will get it in US dollars. If you are in Switzerland, you may well get it in Swedish. If you're in Sweden, rather, not Switzerland. If you're in Sweden, you'll get it in Swedish krona, I suspect. I don't know why that keeps on popping up. Go away. All right, and you can also listen to the songs, and you can have a look at the lyrics as well. Oh, hang on, I'm looking at the wrong one. If you want to actually see the lyrics before you purchase, you go to this one over here. This is the standard version. This does not come with the documentary and photos and all that kind of stuff. This is just the EP. And can you see here it says 0? The reason why it says 0 is because what I would like people to do is I'd like people to listen to the songs and decide how much they are worth to them, having listened to the music. If they think, yes, this has a lot of value for me, I think this is really great, then what you do is you click on this, and then it gives you the option to put in however much you feel it's worth to you. So if you feel it's worth to you £5 or $5 or whatever, then you put that in. There's also a little tip jar that goes with that. So you could put in $5 and say, here, have another $5 because you're cool or whatever. If you really think that, you might not. Or you could just leave it at 0 and get the EP for free. Either way, it's up to you. But again, you can play all the tracks, and let's say, for example, Paper Deity. And you can call up if you press the info tab here, you get to see all of the lyrics for the song. So you can follow it through as you go. And you just hit the play button here. And you get to hear the track. I'm not sure whether you were able to hear that then, because I'm not sure how well Google plays with my screen capture setup that I have here. So you may or may not have heard that. But that's how it works. Okay, so I hope that helps. And I'm going to stop sharing now. And I'm going to go back to my default view and back over to the stream. And let's see what we got. Yeah, Peter says SEK. Fantastic. MGN says, I'm looking at it now and it's showing GBP. I'm in the US. Well, you can change that. You should be able to change that. I think Peter has it in SEK. Yes, Skip says that's because he is in Edinburgh. That's right. I'm in Edinburgh, so I'm in the UK. So it is going to be, my default is GBP, but you should be able to change it to US fairly easily, I think. I've never had to do it myself, so I don't quite know how you do it, but I'm sure it can be done. Peter says, I do. Okay, great. So if you know how to change that, then please post in the chat here, and MGN will have that info, because I'm not really entirely sure how you do it, having never had to do it. Because for me, it all, you know, if I'm buying from Nimbit, like if I'm buying Joe Gilder's EPs, which I do because I'm a supporter of his, or Graham Cochrane's EPs, again, because I'm a supporter of his as well, then I get them through Nimbit. They both have Nimbit accounts, so I get them there. And it just automatically changes for me. Didn't do anything, just visited the links. Okay. And MGN says, me neither. Okay. Well, I think when you get to the checkout, you should be able to change it there. I'm not entirely sure. Sorry, folks. I will look. I'll tell you what. Don't commit to buying it just now if you don't want to. But I will check that out with Nimbit. I will ask. I'll drop them an email and I'll ask, and I will make I'll either make a video about it or I'll put a post up on my Jonny Lipsham Studios Facebook page, and we can get that sorted out. I have had people in the United States purchase my EP with no problems. Oh, there you go. If you click on the little cart in the corner, you can convert it. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. I thought it might be something to do with that, but I wasn't 100% sure, so I didn't want to say until I knew. Have you got any songs written in Edinburgh slang? No, I don't. For the simple reason is that I want to appeal to as wide an audience as I can. So that tends to be that I don't write in what you call Scottish vernacular or Edinburgh vernacular. I know groups that do, and they've made a reasonable amount of money out of it. Like, the guys that wrote 500 Miles, and they sing their songs with the broadest possible East Glasgow accents that they can possibly do, and they've become ridiculously ridiculously popular. Time for some drink. Funny thing happens when I sing, Peter, and maybe a psychologist will be able to explain this, but when I hit record, I don't sing with a Scottish accent, but I don't sing in a kind of fake, vaguely American accent either. It kind of sits somewhere in the middle. It becomes very nondescript. I don't know how else to explain it. But yeah, have a listen to my songs there, and you'll see kind of like that's kind of the dialect, if you like, that I sing with. All right, we have 13 in the room. It is 20 past 2 in the morning, and I'm going to wrap this up in 10 minutes. Peter says, if you walk 500 miles in any direction from Glasgow, you'll end up in the sea. Correct. You just pick your ocean. You'll either end up in the Atlantic, the North Atlantic, or you'll end up in the North Sea. But you'll have gone past Edinburgh if you're going in one direction, in which case you can come and stop in Edinburgh and I'll join you for a beer. I think that's a good offer. And then you can carry on walking until you end up in the sea. Alrighty, I'm going to wrap this up in 10 minutes. So get your last few questions in and I'll try and deal with them as quickly as we can. If you've never seen a Nord before, it doesn't just do Fender Rhodes Mark V. It also does a Steinway Concert Grand. There you go. Just Bob says how. How what? Or is that how? Or is that how? I'm not really sure. Dooley still says, hey, I've laughed out loud a few times. Well, that's good. I'm glad I'm keeping you entertained. This beast also does Hammond organ, which sounds epic. Which sounds absolutely epic, by the way. So the Hammond organ sounds good. How about Milt Buckner? Do you recreate a rocking Hammond organ sound on the? Yes, I do. I have done. Yep. Whirling Leslie. Yes. Sorry, new keyboard Bluetooth doesn't start up. Oh, Your new Bluetooth keyboard doesn't start up. To be fair, are you actually using the Bluetooth to actually connect your keyboard to your computer? Is that how you're doing it? Because if that's the case, I would say MIDI over USB is definitely the better way to do that. Lowen says Sunday church organ. Peter says Procol Harm. I don't actually know that song, I'm afraid. So I can't really help you with that. But Sunday church organ, it depends which church. I have to try and find it. I can never remember where it is. You can always have your hockey organ. Aha, you might like this one. There you go. So it does loads. Just Bob says to iPad, not computer. Delay sometimes doesn't catch when I start typing. Yeah, I'm afraid I don't have any experience of using a USB keyboard to, or a Bluetooth keyboard to an iPad. No, sorry, I don't know. Peter says, have you had the pleasure to try the Seaboard? Not yet. A friend of mine has one, so I think I'm going to have to check his out. MGN says, thanks, Johnny. Gotta go. See you next time. Most certainly will, MGN Studios. Thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. I really appreciate actually everybody stopping by this morning or this evening for you guys, for this special late night edition of the Jonny Lipsham Studios live stream. We will be finishing up in about 3 minutes, so I will take the very next question to come up, and that will be the last one that we do. And then I really have to get to bed because I have to be up stupid o'clock. It's already 2:30 in the morning, and my doctor's appointment is 8:30. So I don't want to fall asleep on the doctor's couch. Thank you. Good times, yes. Dooley still says, if you could transmit in stereo, your keys would sound fantastic. I'm sure they will. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit limited by using Google Hangouts to do all of this. So I think I might actually be restricted to mono. I'm not entirely sure. I will check. Certainly my keyboard is connected mono anyway. It's just one line out from audio into my audio interface. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to hear me talking to the mic. So because basically my setup here is I have the keyboard and this mic running into my PreSonus Audio Box USB, and then the outputs of those go into my PreSonus Monitor Station version 2. Then the Q outs, I have stereo lines running out from those into my second interface, which is what you're listening to, because I have YouTube listening to that interface. So basically that's how you get to hear the keyboard and everything else all at the same time. And that's how you get to hear Studio One as well. Okay. So I think that's about wraps it up. Peter says, I've seen a YouTube clip of Corey Henry playing the Seaboard and it looks amazing. Well, anything that Corey touches sounds amazing, even when he touches a table. So he's a genius. His solo on Snarky Puppy's Lingus from their We Like It Here record is just mind-blowing, frankly. And I've watched the DVD of that, and the reaction of the other musicians at the end of his solo just says it all about Corey Henry's talent, and also says it all about the ethos within Snarky Puppy. That it's, you know, the ethos is that they're a very humble bunch of musicians, and they appreciate each other's talents. And they know when somebody's done something outstanding, and they all celebrate that together. So I like that. So anyway, that will be it for tonight. It is 2:30 in the morning. We still have, in fact, we've lost a few people because a few people have had to go now, but we're down to 9. So those of you that are still in the chat, thank you very, very much. Those of you that have been in the chat throughout, and I think we peaked at 14. So thanks you very much, everybody, for coming and getting involved in my stream. I'm going to keep doing these if you all are still up for it, and hopefully we'll get more people in. So if you folks could do me the a big favor of spreading the word about this stream, I would appreciate that, so we get more people involved. Peter says, I love how the other keyboard just puts his headphones down and shakes his head. Yes. That's exactly what I mean. Dooley says, thanks for the show. Good luck with the doctor tomorrow. Yeah, hopefully we'll make another step forward in dealing with this infection. I'm on some very hefty steroids to try and clear it, and they're kind of sort of working, but they're pretty strong. I'll tell you that. All right, folks, I will bid you all a very good night, and I will see you on my next live stream. Take care, guys.